Anyway, shall we?
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring such good energy today, guys.
Nice.
Matter. Anyway, so this week we watched Rafiki, a Kenyan film directed by Wanuri Kahiu, which I apparently have not looked at until right now.
Kahiu.
Kahiu.
Yeah.
Wanuri Kahiu. That makes more sense. It is a I would say it's part coming of age, part romance, LGBT romance. That premiered with some controversy, of course, in Kenya 2 years ago. And I chose it this week because it's been on my list to watch since it came out, kind of. It was not, you weren't able to get your hands on it in the US for a while. More specifically, I chose it to try to lighten the mood a little bit after some of our heavier films that we just watched. So.
How did you hear about it, Morgan? Like how did you find it?
I meant like, okay, so in a very non-jokey way, I very much have my ear to the ground with any like positive LGBT thing like that comes out. I actively seek out, content that is queer, content that is happy. That is my 2 requirements. There's a lot of
exposure to it, so this is great.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm curious about what you guys thought or how you liked it.
I loved it. It was so from the beginning. I think, Morgan, like you were saying, we've watched so many heavy movies lately that just like the music and the color and the lighting and the slow, I don't know, everything. I just loved it. It was visually so beautiful and the story was so beautiful. I really enjoyed it.
I like it. Rachel, you're my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with Rachel on this. Like, it was just a fun, feel good, like story for the most part.
For the most part,
there are some pretty like upsetting scenes in it too, but overall, like the tone and the story were just very very uplifting. I mean, just I feel like that's not quite the right word, but I don't know, it was poignant in a feel good way. That
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Sue.
I loved it. I don't know how you couldn't love it. It's like an adult Disney movie. There's just like in that obviously it's not like a kiddish movie, but there's just like just the right enough amount of conflict and thought-provoking like situations where you have to kind of toil through it with the characters, and so the story becomes very rich because you are kind of forced to watch this evolve but also be a part of it. It just was a really good story in the way that it was told, and also like you were saying, Rachel, I love the textures. I love the textures textures maybe not be the right word, but patterns. I mean, even just like the visual pattern of the way that things were lined up that are repeating. Textures is the only word I can think of, but anyway, it was just all over the place, and so it was a beautiful, just visual.
Visually beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm right there with you. Like the cinematography, I thought was fantastic. And I mean, just from the jump, I mean, the opening credit sequence with like the, like a designed, like a drawn animated card with a credit on it. and then cutting to like just a shot of something happening in that setting. In music, the song in the opening credits, like the whole combination was it starts out and you're like, this is gonna be a good time.
It's gonna be upbeat.
Well, Wanuri Kahiu calls this type of movie, like this aesthetic, the bright colors and the, kind of the overall hopeful, joyful tone. She refers to it as Afro-bubblegum, as like as a genre, kind of. And she describes it as kind of a reaction to a lot of the pop culture depictions of Africa, which tend to be, kind of dark and grim. Look at this poor, destitute civilization. Look at the way they live. Look at the like hopeless way they're grinding through life. Or either that, which and that kind of makes me think of The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. I don't know if any of you guys watched it. That was, very good story, very also like ended on a positive note, but there was a lot of just kind of hopelessness,
you actually
in the overall.
You also stumbled upon like other reasons why I wanted to watch this film, or why I chose it for us to watch specifically, is because it is a film set in Africa that is not about AIDS or poverty or about how hard it is to live in Africa, because it's an undeveloped country, absolutely, from toe to tip. Just that's all.
One giant country.
Yep, that's it. And it's just it's yeah, right. It's very much like the American narrative, where that's when you think of Africa, that's what you think of. Not in a mean, judgy way, but that's
all
in
we
the
see.
media. It's all we see. And it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to watch it, because it introduces this. It's like, oh yeah, hey, it's a normal city.
Well, they did a really good job with that, because everything was mostly in English, and that was helpful. I think that's helpful in kind of bridging that gap. I think if it was a complete foreign language, then that creates that separation of like this being like an international niche film versus something that could really easily be assimilated into American cinema.
So one of the sad things about that, though, the fact that it was like mostly in English, is it was disqualified from being counted as a foreign film for some. I want to say it was the Oscars, but I could have been wrong. I was
thinking like that too, but I thought it was partially to do from the controversy. Like I thought it was something like the Kenyan team.
Yeah,
as their.
I don't know. I was just reading about that.
Like they didn't want to claim it to represent their.
So when this movie came out, it was banned in Kenya by the Kenyan Film Review Board, not because it portrayed a lesbian romance, but because it portrayed a lesbian romance in a positive light.
Yep, with a happy ending.
Yep, it had a happy ending. They wanted the ending to be changed, and then they would approve it. And Wanuri Kahiu, said no, like she's not going to change it. So they banned the film. She took them to court and got the ban overturned. And they allowed the film to have a very limited release in Kenya, just long enough for it to be eligible for consideration, or eligible to be Kenya's submission to the Academy for the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar. But it didn't actually end up being Kenya's submission. They submitted. Oh, what was the movie they submitted? It's
Supamodo.
Supamodo. We saw, do you guys remember seeing trailer or something? Oh no, they showed that movie at the Children's Film Festival of Seattle in 2019. We didn't watch it when we went, but it was in the.
Yeah, it's been selected for a lot of children's film festivals too. Because I was looking through New York's, I don't know, when I was gathering data for somewhere, I kept seeing it everywhere too. So yeah. Oh, I want to Google. I'm not.
I think that conversation about how Americans consume stories from Africa when they're like, "We are helping you, Africa," or "You're so far behind." I caught it a little bit in myself, where I was like, "Oh my goodness, it's illegal to be gay in Kenya," and then it's like step back and realize like there are positive movements in America, but it's not like gay people in America live the best life either. That was for me like maybe that's not a fair comparison because it's not illegal here, but there's still
but okay. I will say just like startlingly relevant is with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the possibility of a conservative Supreme Court, they are already literally talking about overturning marriage equality.
Wow.
So, I mean, there we are.
Like Rachel, I feel like, are you saying that you had to catch yourself, like we're not so well off? I mean, it's easy for America to watch a movie about like extreme poverty of a third world country and go like, oh, even the poorest in America is not that bad off. So we're not in a position in our like, gay rights and marriage equality or anything like in our views of that, to be able to even kind of have that lens when we're looking at that, because we're not in the same boat, but also fighting the fight still.
Yeah, but not so far advanced as a lot of people like to think, myself included. I'm definitely in that camp where I like remind myself, it's like, no, there's still a lot of like food insecurity and poverty and like just crazy and child marriage and conversion camp, so it's just like, it's not so far-fetched, not so far away.
I'm not gonna lie to you though, in that same vein, I was acutely aware of how ignorant I am of, just views on gay couples in romance when they were about to be dragged out, or they were being dragged out, and there was like the glowing light. I'm like, fuck, if they get burned at the stake or something like that, I'm out. Like, I was like, how far there too.
I was like, I thought I remembered this was like on my list because it had a happy ending. So I'm like, was like hanging on there, but I got nervous.
I got scared. I was like, what's gonna happen?
Why do they have torch? Like, they don't have a torch, but like that lantern. I was like, who's gonna get lit on fire? I can't.
So maybe let's get it. Let's talk about the story of the movie a little bit. So we've talked about the overall theme and context of the movie, but just to lay the groundwork of the story and what we're referring to. The movie is about two teenage Kenyan girls who become friends and fall in love, and then deal with the consequences of their relationship in Kenya, in a society where gay sex is illegal, and where 95% of the population consider homosexuality to be immoral, or and just an abomination, basically. And it seems to be, it was portrayed in this movie to be very religion based, which I think is the case, both from the religions of Christianity and Islam, which I think are both fairly prominent in Kenya. With that story, so one of the major element in the story against the relationship of these two girls is the pressure from their church. And one of the girls' mothers is very religious, and in fact, there's even a classic "Pray the Gay Away" scene late in the movie after the girl's relationship gets discovered. That, I mean, spoiler alert, it didn't work.
What? Did she pray hard enough?
Yeah, there are a lot of unanswered questions there. That is one of them. But that, like, seeing stuff like that and coming from the very strongly religious background that I come from is, I don't know. It's always, this is one of those thoughts that I should have articulated and typed out ahead of time. So I would have this a little more collected before I started talking.
Work it through. How does it make you feel coming from the background that you have?
It's very relatable. Like I can see the reactions of the girl's mother, of the people in the church around them, and it is like, yeah, I've seen this before. I know where this is going. I mean, I know why they're doing this, and it's tough to watch. It really is. It's so something about that, like that fervent, that passionate belief that what your daughter or what a person is doing is abhorrent, so abhorrent, like you reject them entirely. And that's, I just read a stat, and this is an old stat. It's from a 2007 survey, so that's it's 13 years old. I don't know how much the stat might have changed between then and now, but 89% of Kenyan people who come out as LGBTQ are disowned by their families, or that was the case in 2007. Which is just, I mean, it's just brutal, just absolutely gutting. And so that was a difficult dynamic in this like overall very feel-good story. So like what were your guys' takes on that? Like what were you thinking when you saw the reaction from the main characters' families as the story unfolded and as the relationship that came out?
Rachel?
Okay, I didn't want to take the ground even though I was trying. I think that scene for me, it was weighty, and I just felt like the girls were trapped. It felt like you were trapped in this situation where the group think is not right. And I know they're young adults and starting into the working world, but it feels like in order to survive, they have to they have to fake it and go through this and accept this view of the world. Yeah, I guess I'm not summarizing this too well, but it felt like she was trapped with that untruth. I didn't.
Well, Zeke tried to address that by saying, be you, just be, who you are. But yeah, anyway.
At the same, she had that moment in the church where she was just who cares? No one cares about us. And then that was very violently upended for her.
It was interesting how their like their positions flipped after that.
Well, in all of those dynamics, though, I have to say the one I was most surprised by was Kenna's dad's, because he then, compared to Zeke's family, you know, I feel like Kenna's dad had the most to lose, right? He was the incumbent politician. So Zeke's dad was the one who was running against him. He wasn't, right? Am I wrong on this, or?
No, you're right.
I think so.
It just seemed
You're
like,
right.
you know, his standing in the community was more at risk, right? Because if Zeke's dad ran and lost, I mean, nothing's changed. But but then his entire identity is challenged by what his daughter's life is unfolding, and as it is unfolding. And yet Kenna's dad was the one at the police station who put his jacket around her shoulders and looked at her and made sure she was okay. And this is the guy who is not flawless, right? Obviously, he has his own sins that he is kind of dealing with and working through for his family. And I found that that relationship and that scene to be really touching, and also really surprising, because, you know, I was not expecting somebody so close to her who, you know, she seemed to have like a good, healthy relationship, but not exactly like a close, intimate relationship with her dad. And so
she was very much a child of divorced parents, whereas
right. Don't take sides.
Like, yeah, exactly.
And yet
don't be the go-between.
But that moment of affection and, like, maybe not acceptance, but not like outright rejection of who she is, exactly, was so meaningful, and coming from, I think, a place where she didn't expect it either. And so that was, I felt, really powerful and surprising as well.
So as a consumer of just all the queer content, the church whole like dynamic was very familiar. It's a very, very, very common trope. So it has not so much of an edge for me, also because I don't really come from a religious background.
So would you say, Morgan, that in terms of queer storytelling, like, was there anything novel or groundbreaking in this movie?
Still, okay, you got, the sad thing is, happy endings are still pretty novel. And the actual sweetness of the portrayal of this relationship, plus a sustained happy ending, it's still just so rare that it happens.
Their developing love story, I was struck by, I mean, it's so like tender and then slow moving, and that I was like, that's so different from a lot of, well, I guess I'm thinking more like rom-com type movie where it's like everyone for each other and you're like ripping your clothes off. And I thought it was so sexy how slow all the movement was. And I don't know if
it's like, I think any movie with that slow deliberate courtship is still, like, you don't get that a lot. It's nice. And it's the media doesn't the medium of filmmaking, you only have an hour and a half, 2 hours to tell a whole story. How slow can it really go, kind of thing. Yeah, I really like that. It's called Slow Burn. It's my favorite.
Get the smolder in there.
I found the side characters all very well developed and super awesome. Like Kenna's best friend,
Blacksta.
Yeah, Blacksta. Also his girlfriend, also her mom. Like, the thing is that
mama team.
Yeah, well, while the characters were not exactly all lovable characters, like, they stayed true. And also they're like token people that you know in the community, and or, you know, like the mom being the gossip who owns a bodega in the middle of town and like literally hears everything that goes on, sees everything that goes on, is influenced by, or I mean is an influencer. And I had a moment where near the end where she tells Kenna that Zeke's back, right? I was like, why would she say that? But then it is actually who she is. She just gossip. She just knows shit. And yeah, she's a shitster. And like from the beginning all the way to the end. And the thing is that their motivations, because they were so well developed in the very brief times you got them, their motivations actually made sense to move the story along. For instance, Blacksta's girlfriend, who could see that he had maybe a thing for Kenna, and or like she had a motivation that was developed just enough that it didn't ring untrue when she called them out in the bus and like, you know, revealed them, because that was revenge for her. You know, like, look at this, like the ridiculousness. And she's been ridiculed by Blacksta every time he like kind of pushes her off to go and hang out with Kenna and all that. And now it's like, look at this, they're lesbian. I found this out. Mom, come here, look. It in that tiny character or part, like so much was developed in such a short amount of time. I thought that was very impressive.
So like I gave my reasons for choosing this earlier. And I stand by that. I also would select this for the film festival. I do think that there were weaknesses within the movie. There were some you know, a little meandering, which I don't mind personally. Some interesting character choices, and just a little bit of awkwardness that you guys know I can't abide by. But the fact that it is a movie about Africa that's not poverty porn, it's a movie about a queer relationship that doesn't end in tragedy, and it is just like something that can introduce so many different ideas and like different ideas of endings in things that Western society has really these preconceived notions for. I think it has value in sharing it with the wider community. But I don't know if you guys were being kind or tactful, because I don't know about some of the movie's faults. But I do recognize that, and I do think there is value in the film regardless. So I'm curious how you guys feel.
I would agree with that. I felt like the second half of the movie, I don't know if I would say the word flaws, but there were lots of parts for me in the second half that didn't quite click into place the way the first half did. But it's still such a great story. I would absolutely pick it. I was even thinking, like, while you were talking, where I think it would fit best, and I would almost even think like flagship would be really cool. And I feel like that would be a cool statement even. But I really enjoyed it, even though for me, like I was saying, in that second half there were pieces that didn't develop quite as well. I still loved it. So good.
Well, I would second both of you guys' comments, and I would just like to add, for the reason that it had an excellent soundtrack that I really enjoyed the music of, and also because this was sub 2 hours. Like, well done, director, storyteller lady whose name I cannot pronounce. And then to have all of this wrapped up in that concise package with the meandering, as you mentioned. I'm like, ballsy and well done, lady. I'm in. The only thing, I don't know where I would screen it. I'm not opposed to flagship. It would have to, I don't know. We'd have to think that one through.
Absolutely on board. Like I want to show this at our film festival. I want to second basically everything Morgan said. I would add one other point to the positives, the pros column, in that, which would be that I think this is a fantastic like gateway foreign film. Because you can tell, I mean, you can tell watching it that it's not It's not standard American Hollywood, blockbuster or indie movie. Like it has an international feel to it. But like we were talking earlier about the language, I mean, a lot of it is in English, and it's very approachable. None of it feels so foreign. Not, I mean, just in aesthetic and culture and mindset, that it is hard to actually to get, it's super approachable, super entertaining, super enjoyable. That being said, it does have a significant number of flaws, and we didn't really go into any of them in this conversation. I think primarily just because they're just process flaws. I mean, just kind of storytelling things that don't quite add up, or shortcuts. Yeah, shortcuts, that are obvious, and they're kind of muddle the story a little bit, but it's not enough to it's not enough to significantly detract from the overall experience. And the overall experience is so overwhelmingly positive that it can cover a lot of faults. I think that if this were not, like, if this were made anywhere else, maybe it had a different setting, it might, the flaws might shine through a little more. But there's something about I mean, again, we keep going back to this, like the bright colors, just the upbeat storytelling, the upbeat tone of this movie, that it just works, flaws notwithstanding. And I really, really enjoyed it. I not here to nitpick on any of the flaws.
I'm glad you all liked it. I was a little worried, and especially because this is, like I said, it's something that I've been sitting on for a long time, that from like wanting to watch, because I knew it was going to be important to me. So like, it's partially validating and partially reassuring that you guys also saw value in it. So.
Yeah, you know what? You are a good person after all, Morgan.
Don't be too hasty.